Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Another exciting episode of The Citizen Exclusive with your host, Mpoki Thompson. I'm in the commercial capital, Dar es Salaam. Today, we're going to talk about mobility and technology. You're going to understand what that means for the Tanzanian economy, but also the day-to-day movement of people. I'm at Bolt, Tanzania, the offices. I am with the Senior General Manager who oversees Tanzania, Kenya, Uganda, Dimmy Kanyankole. Welcome to the Citizen Exclusive. Thank you. But I am also with the Senior Country Manager, Milu Kipimo, who oversees Tanzania, South Africa, and Ghana. That is Bolt Business. Gentlemen, welcome to the Citizen Exclusive.
Thanks for coming to our office, mate.
You know, when we talk about Bolt, I think majority of Tanzanians understand what that is, especially those in the urban centers, because it is integral to the daily movement, as I mentioned, especially now that we are seeing the city becoming congested. People are looking for most efficient ways to move around. But then now let's talk about Bolt as a business, the operations. You came into the Tanzanian market in the year 2017, and there's been a lot of successes. It's been a bit of an up and down kind of operation. And today that's going to be the focus of this discussion, to make the Tanzanian audiences across East Africa and even globally understand what Bolt means for this part of the region. Dimmy, to start off with you, you're the Senior General Manager overseeing the East African market. Can you tell us, what does Bolt mean for East Africa?
Yeah, so thanks very much, Mpoki. So Bolt is one of the, I would say, integral economy for East Africa. So today we really operate, and our job is to really ensure that everyone is able to move, work, and back home safely. So we operate with our partners who are the drivers. So in TZ context, for example, we work with more than 50,000 drivers a monthly basis, right? Similar to Kenya, similar to Uganda. So that's a number that we can say we are really pushing into the economy, because every time a driver is on the wheel, they make some money, and that money flows into their families and the economy. But as well, with having such big number of drivers, we are able to move millions of Tanzanians every single day who are going either to work or back home or the end of their activities, right? So if you think about it, today, maybe before Bolt or before any ride-hailing company, how were people moving around? Either they had to take the offline tax, and what's the impact of that? Number one, you don't know where you find it, so there was no convenience side, right? Number two, even if you had to get it, you don't know the pricing, you don't know whichever price is fair or whatever, right? Number three, there is no oversight of whether you'll be safe, and in case you are safe or not, is there anyone checking else? But now with Bolt or ride-hailing, the industry, number one, we cover the convenience. You can call and you can board a Bolt whenever and wherever you are. So today, for example, if you're in Dar es Salaam and you need a Bolt, whether it's a four-wheeler, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, we guarantee you that you'll be able to get a car or a bike within 3 minutes. Okay. So that's massive.
That is massive indeed. Now let's talk about the growth that we've seen ever since you entered into the market in 2017, and the popularity that the ride-hailing company has gotten over the years. How has that growth been? Because when you started, I'm quite sure there needed to be a lot of awareness building. But then today, you're already an established company. Talk about the growth trajectory.
Yeah, thanks very much. So when we started in 2017, our biggest focus was number one, set. And set is get a few drivers, then get a few passengers, right? Get the business running. Then over time, we started now expanding. So in 2019, by 2019, at least we had expanded in 4 cities. So by then it was in Dar es Salaam, Arusha, Mwanza, and Dodoma. Then fast forward in 2025, we are talking about 9 cities. And more recently, of course, we even made our presence clear in Zanzibar. That's a statement, yeah. Then in terms of business growth, I'd say we're aggressive. Number one, we're a digital company, so moves fast. Number two, we are playing in an industry that we know very well. So innovation is our core for business. And in terms of overall business growth, at least a very minimum, today we are still growing over 70% year-over-year every month.
70%. Okay, that's quite interesting.
Whatever number we had same month last year, this year, same month, 70% growth.
Okay. Yeah. Now, that growth eventually necessitated now the expansion into Bolt business. Now, Milu, that's your area of expertise. Let's talk a bit about Bolt business. How different is it from the day-to-day Bolt that people know about? Can you unpack this for us?
Oh, that's an amazing question, man. And thanks for asking it. Number one thing that people really need anywhere that you go in the world, especially businesses, businesses actually want 2 things. They want at least to make profit, but as well to be efficient. And how can you be efficient if you don't have the tools that really support you to be so efficient? Yeah. So since our official launch of Bolt Business in Tanzania around 2021, right now we have a direct impact of more than 5,000 companies are using our services on a daily basis. And when I'm talking about services, I mean the technologies that we've created. So we have what we call SaaS, which is actually our software where we give enterprises the power to dictate how they want their team to move around on a daily basis. Imagine as a CFO or the managing director of a company, you don't have to worry about a petty cash on a daily basis. And imagine even some of your employees are traveling abroad. You don't have to think about what kind of transport they should use when they're abroad. So our software actually bring all that together, give enterprises the power to dictate, to control, and even to set the rules on how their teams can move on a daily basis so that they can focus on their core business. For instance, Mwananchi, meaning your core business is actually making sure that the people are educated and all that. Yes. So we chip in with our technologies, which is actually a SaaS and online web where we can actually give you access and set the rules. And it has been quite amazing in Tanzania to, I think, most of enterprises.
Yeah, absolutely. Now let's talk about the expansion of the private sector, because there is a growing private sector here in the country. How have you been keeping up the pace of the growth of the private sector in order to ensure that each and every company that requires, ease in terms of mobility is able to access Bolt? How do you keep the growth of the private sector in mind?
So despite being like a global company, one thing that we usually have in our DNA is actually trying to take the global expertise and exposure and try to see how we can really make it fit the local context. And we don't just touch the private sector in Tanzania. The private sector is really, really growing. And the way we have actually built our technologies is to make sure that fit the need of all enterprises, in the private sector, but as well right now, we're working with the government. We have won a couple of tender to work with the government in Tanzania. So it's actually, you can see the adoption is not just on the private sector, but even on the government level as well. Now the government want to adopt the technologies, the innovation that actually give enterprises. The government have started now adopting to make sure that they streamline everything that is business mobility and business travel. So we are seeing some really, really positive trend, and I can tell you probably it's gonna be something else in the next couple of months.
Allow me a bit of latitude to delve a little bit into the operations with the government, because we understand that in the African context, when we're looking at national budgets, the government tends to put a lot of billions to procure high-level vehicles for the ministers and even these district councillors and also the regional commissioners. So it's always a point of contention. Now, do you feel that Bolt can fill that void in terms of providing mobility, assured mobility for the government? Can you fill that void?
Of course, as a technologies company, we create and we evolve every day to make sure that we serve all enterprises, but as well the government. And we are a very good partner. We have a very good relationship with the government. And from there, that's why I told you, like right now, they want at least to see the current government want to cut costs, want to make sure that every taxpayer dollars or shilling goes out there and bring impact to the people. And that's why probably they've started adopting that. And in the long run, I think we are open to work with the government and to use our technologies for the good of this country. And as you know, we have a lot of partners, drivers, as Dimmy said, and all those drivers partner, they have like, in Tanzania, we know all of us are from here, right? One person probably have like 50 or even 100 people behind them. So when someone is earning $1 today, that dollar end up going to 100 people. So the government working with us, it means like whatever money that the government will be actually putting in the market will touch all the people, because our drivers partner will earn more, meaning like all the people that actually depend on them as well will end up getting something. And it's our call as well. We have a tremendous relationship with the government. We are open. We have created like a world-class, top-class technologies, and it's your time. We'd like to work with you. A few entity parastates have started, and we are open to make sure that we go even to the central government, yes, and as well anywhere that we can touch. And we're actually on track to achieve that.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that day. Now, Dimmy and Milu, you're Tanzanians, but you are overseeing regional markets, which is quite impressive. So let's talk about markets beyond Tanzania. You're overseeing the Ugandan and the Kenyan market as well. What does business look like in those particular markets, and how different and similar is it to Tanzania?
Yes, so I'd say maybe for Kenya is much more advanced in terms of competition, and ride-hailing started quite early in Kenya than TZ, though TZ is now catching up as well.
Yeah.
But in terms of competition, we are still the market leader in Kenya. Luckily enough, that's because of everyone is working every single day, right? Yeah. So in terms of mobility, well, if I were to compare Dar es Salaam and Nairobi today, I'd say Tanzania is more of low-cost travel, where it's really dominated with 3 and 2-wheelers. While in Kenya, the 4-wheelers is dominant by around 70% of the vehicles. Oh. Yeah, so that's the dynamics here. So in TZ, of course, we could say it's because of weather and stuff like that. So in Kenya, it's more cars than in 2 and 3-wheelers than Dar es Salaam, right? Okay. Then in terms of average price as well, Kenya economy is much higher on the other end. So then the price is much, like the fare is much higher. And of course, also the operation cost in Kenya is at least much higher as well, because the fuel in Kenya as well cannot compare with the fuel in TZ. Yeah. So I'd say that's how we rank. But in terms of performance-wise, I'd say due to the city and metropolitan state, Kenyans prefer more ride-hailing than driving themselves. Yeah. It's the same trend that now we are seeing in Dar es Salaam, where people now are like, okay, why should I even sit on the wheel for 2 hours going to work? Why can't I take a Bolt? And by that time I can be working, So I think Kenya is maybe a bit 10% higher or above us, but we are catching up.
And from a business perspective, comparatively, when you look at the Tanzanian market, you oversee South Africa, you oversee Ghana. What are some of the similarity and also the differences in both business?
The funny story is like when you look to Dimmy's line of business, right? Tanzania is not the top, but when you look for both business and Tanzania, it's actually the largest country in Africa. On the business account, actually, meaning like a lot of enterprises have adopted our solution in Tanzania than any country like South Africa or Ghana where I oversee. But when you look to the market size, of course, the total addressable market of South Africa is quite large because of the economy of South Africa as well. Even Ghana as well, the total addressable market, it's quite big. But that's when come that fun fact, despite having a small total addressable market, Tanzanian business seems to be more open to adopt technologies and to incorporate technology into day-to-day operation.
Okay, perfect. Now let's talk about the opportunities now that lay in the market. What are some of those opportunities that you think if you're able to address at a seamless level, your business will be able to exponentially grow?
Yeah, so for me, number one is infrastructure. So I'm happy that I can see a lot of infrastructure development going around here. So for me, when I say infrastructure, I'm looking at 2 things here. Number one, we need to have proper roads, right? Yeah. With proper roads, more investors are going to be willing to invest in good cars that can work on roads. Otherwise, it will be impossible for guys to bring some quality cars, right? Number 2, I'm looking at the EV infrastructure. So TZ, we are now getting to the electrification. We have, of course, CNG as well as part of the, big dominant whatever options for most of the drivers, right? So for me, when I look at the EV, I look at the charging and swapping infrastructure. So we're a bit behind, though I've seen some development in the last couple of months. So for me, once we get around between 50 to 100 such charging and swapping stations, for example, now we can dive the industry.
Okay, yeah, but you're absolutely right. We do need some nicer looking cars within the Bolt fleet. Now, from a business perspective, what is that opportunity that you feel if tapped into, the Bolt business will be able to exponentially grow?
I think similar to what Dimmy said, because it's like the same shape, right? So once something is fixed from this side, it means something from the other side end up being fixed automatically, right? But I think right now, one thing that I think it's needed in our in the country, it's actually the adoption of the technologies. For instance, Bolt business account, we have an open API, meaning like any enterprises right now, They don't have to think about control and all that. We want to make sure it's easier for them to connect our technologies with whatever system they're using so that they can really track and make sure everything runs smoothly. So the adoption, that's actually a call that I'll have to make to a lot of enterprises. They need to adopt the technologies in all angles, not just one angle. And our aim is for businesses to support them. That's why we decided to have an open API to make sure that everyone that actually come on board on our marketplace will have full visibility and will get full support. I think that's the number one thing. But as well, on top of that, I think the whole ecosystem or infrastructure, as Dimmy said, we still need to invest more into that. As a foreign company operating here, we are very keen to work along with all other companies to make sure that the entire ecosystem and infrastructure is well built in the country.
Absolutely. Now, when it comes to resilience, I just want to get a sense of how Bolt prepares for any eventuality. Taking a prime example, during the COVID-19 era, unfortunately, we saw a dip in many businesses where within the private, be it private or public sector, people were working from home. So there wasn't a lot of mobility going around. How did you manage to navigate that situation? And what lesson did that teach Bolt?
Yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, so we are typically at core resilient. Yeah, so we plan ahead and ensure that whatever happens, at least we can survive, and not only survive or continue to be not innovative and go with whatever comes around. Yeah. So when the COVID-19 hit us as well, and I think there was some regulatory issue at some point, even some of the guys decided even thinking about exiting the business. But Bolt was like, no, we are here to stay. We are not just here for short term, but we are here to make mobility accessible, affordable, and feasible for everyone. Yeah. Then when now the business were down a lot and people were working from home, so when now we even started to think about such service such as Bolt Send. I don't know that you know Bolt Send. So we know people are now not moving a lot, but they wanted to buy some items and deliver to home or deliver to office, right? Then now we're able to launch even Bolt Send, which is now growing, I think, at over 150% year over year. So that's how we are innovative. So at every era, every year, whenever there's some changes, we normally say, okay, what are we doing now? What are we changing? What are we improving? Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now you touched a bit about the regulations. Now let's talk about that, because you work in an industry that is contingent to the regulatory environment. How conducive is it to growth? How do you navigate the regulatory space here in Tanzania? Also working with the government, I'm quite sure there are grievances, but also there are opportunities there. Let's talk a bit about that.
Yeah, thanks very much. So for us, it's normally about engagement. So we understand we're operating in an industry where 10 years ago, even the guys that are regulating us today, they had never experienced the retail. Same to us, we had never worked in the retail, right? So retailing is a new industry, comes with the new challenges, new opportunities and stuff like that. So whenever we go to the regulator, it's normally to engage. Guys, we have this problem, how are we fixing it? Can we work together to build and develop fair policies that really guarantee that the drivers that we're working with, or partners we're working with, are safeguarded, similar to the passengers or riders, but as well, we really connecting to what the government thinks ahead. So that's how we work with them. So it's normal engagement where we present our case, we tell them what's happening, how we think it should work. Then they tell us, guys, we hear you, but let's bring all other stakeholders that are playing together. So in most cases, whenever we are in engagement with our regulators. Yeah. So it's never about Bolt. So it's always Bolt with other retailing partners. Yeah. Then with all our partners, such as drivers, in some cases, even the union for passengers, come together and say, guys, look, we have the new industry and it's here to stay. How do we regulate it better?
Okay, so are there any regulatory pain points at the moment?
Yes, but we're addressing them.
You're addressing them with the government. Okay, so hopefully that is going to be a discussion that will ensure that the business grows. Now, from a business perspective, when it comes to regulations, I understand that, of course, you're serving, you're under one umbrella, Bolt, but when you're working now with the corporate world, what regulations are you currently navigating, if there are any that are impacting Bolt business specifically?
I think as we were having a chat before the interview. So both as a group, we have different business line, and each business line it's actually has its own core function or deliverable. And so, in a nutshell, I think there's nothing that I'll say on the business that is actually a main blocker. So we have one regulator, which is LATRA. But for us, it's more on the tax aspect and how we are talking about maybe the tax revenue authority, understanding on how our model is a new industry coming in, on how we can really make it easier so that at the end of the day, we can pay tax, or even any business that come to work with us can be at ease as well to know that I'm working with X company and everything that I'll do on the tax aspect will be within the time frame or the regulation as per the country how it's supposed to be done, right? So we've been having a little bit of conversation here and there, but as Dimmy said, we have a very solid relationship with all the regulator, either directly or indirectly. So far, everything is actually working well, and whatever that is going on, we're having a very good conversation with the government, and probably will end up having a solid solution at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And we understand that Bolt is one of the biggest taxpayers in the country. So that means that the business thriving is good for Tanzania's economic growth. So eventually any regulatory restraint need to be addressed. Let's talk about now the Zanzibar market, because most recently there was a lot of news buzzing around about Bolt finally entering, the tourist destination that is Zanzibar. Can you tell us why did it take so long, and what's the situation at the moment in terms of Bolt entering the Zanzibar market?
Yeah, okay, thanks very much. So it took long because the regulator in Zanzibar is quite different from the regulator in mainland. So for them it's ZATSA, while in mainland it's ATRA. So I think number one, there was no regulation around ride hailing. So we worked with them for quite some time, really come up with a framework that can really work for ride hailing. So it was up until July this year, when now the regulation was passed. So around August, I think the start of August now, the regulator reached out to us, and now we're given the green light now to finally launch the Zanzibar market. Yeah.
Okay, so is Bolt now operational in Zanzibar as we speak?
Yes, operational, but not on all categories. Not on all categories, because there are some other issues that we are now working with the regulator and the other key stakeholders, such as Zanzibar Commission for Tourism, to see how we can now work with the tourists, because for them they are very much interested with the tourists.
Yes.
And having Bolt come with the whatever price that the regulator gave us may impact a bit of how they operate. So we are still working together to see how we can now work together to ensure that no one loses and everyone wins. By everyone winning, it's us as a business, but also the Zanzibarians who are now our partners or drivers, but also the government collects their revenue as they wish.
Okay, and just to dig a little bit deeper on that, we understand that for the Zanzibar economy, as far as tourism is concerned, mobility is a big factor. I travel to Zanzibar quite a bit. I know how much they charge to take you from point A to point B. And now Bolt is entering the market, which marginally you'll be charging way less, even 50% less than what people were paying. How are you engaging with the local community to assure them that they're not going to be adversely impacted economically?
Yeah, thanks very much, okay. So basically, even when we were given a green light to operate, because there was no pricing structure, so we started discussing with the regulator. So guys, we did our research, so we collected all the pricing points from the local operations, right? So we are saying, okay, from point A to B on the field, on the ground, the taxi or the boda or the three-wheeler charges this amount.
Yeah.
How much do you think we should be charging as a regulator? So they give us the amount, right? Then now we see, if we were to charge this amount, what would be the difference in terms of what the driver was earning before and the driver is earning today.
Yeah.
So now we try to fix that difference with now the more orders. Because ideally what we do is, if you're not on Bolt today, you are definitely either, depending whether someone knows you, they'll call you for them to give them a ride, or you'll just be parking at a stage where you are waiting for anyone to park up, right? So based on our research today, a driver on Bolt does 3x number of rides compared to the driver not on Bolt. So even at the price level, if the price level at a particular order was maybe 30% less on Bolt, but because they get 3x more rides, they end up getting home with more money than if they were on offline.
Okay. Now, about Bolt business in the Zanzibar context, what does that mean for Bolt business?
Well, that's an interesting question actually, because since we launched our operation, we've been receiving a lot of requests from businesses actually here in Tanzania, mainland and Zanzibar as well, that want to streamline their day-to-day operation by using our technologies. So the launch of our operation in Zanzibar, it's one step ahead on working with the government and all the business of the island to make sure that they really adopt to the technologies, because technology, and this is something that I usually tell people, you can reject technologies today, but the moment that you say like, hey, now I want to embrace this, it will be gone, and you'll end up losing a lot of money around that time that you said like, hey, let me just do this and this and this. And we have seen that probably when you look in the ecosystem in the past, when, for instance, M-Pesa, when they launched, they were looking for super dealer back then, and everyone was like, it's a scam, right? No one, well, actually a lot of people were scared to invest or to become agent of M-Pesa. And trust me, people invest in M-Pesa back then. Right now, that changed their lives. And it's the same for us as well. Business that are open to our technologies are saving millions on a monthly basis. And those millions goes into expanding their business, they pay tax. Actually, they end up giving back to the community indirectly because of our technology. So it's a good path or a good step toward helping enterprises and working with the government, because we truly want to work with the government of Zanzibar as well in making sure that mobility for all the government employee or public servant, it's something that should be because I believe the government wants the well-being of all their employees, and our solution can really help them to streamline that in the island as well.
Yeah, so speaking about technology, we understand now artificial intelligence is very much integral to day-to-day running of businesses, but also personal lives. What does that look like from a Bolt perspective, integrating more technological advancement in your operations and potentially even the rides themselves? Because right now the interaction with technology is, I believe, you correct me if I'm wrong, is when I get into the app, when I'm interacting with either with the chatbot or the online services, is there going to be a scaled up technological integration into the Bolt services?
Yeah, so as I said, we are a tech company, so everything tech, we go for it fast, right? So today I think AI really helps run some sort of common issues. So today, for example, even on chatbot, right? Yes, we have human AI, then we have safety team. We have AI, we have human agents, then we have the safety team, right? That looks at the trip, right? But for the things that are very common, for example, you're in trip and you think you were overcharged, that issue does not require a human agent to check. The AI can already calculate the balance and see whether you're overcharged or not. And in case you need an escalation, is then when it goes to human agent or whatever. So we have integrated the AI, not only on how we solve fast, like how we solve real-time issues, but also on how we operate. Today, for example, if you're a driver and you want to join Bolt, right? You can be able to download the application, upload all the necessary documents. The AI machines will be able to check and confirm whether this ID is valid ID based on this regulation or not. So you'll be able to be accepted or declined because of the AI in technology as well.
Okay. What is being done about those drivers when you make an order? Like I want to travel, I'm a rider, so I want to go somewhere, and then I order Bolt, and then they give me a call, and then they ask me how much does it show on the screen, and then they want me to top up. And I would say this is very much prevalent in the Kenyan market. Whenever I travel to Kenya, I face that challenge a bit, and then they cancel. They're like, you know what, I cannot take you at that listed amount unless you top up. Yeah. What is being done to address such type of situations?
Yeah, so thanks very much, Bob, for that. Yeah, we understand we get some such situations at some point, right? So number one is always training. So today we have been enhancing training at the onboarding level when a driver joins Bolt, but also post-onboarding. So there is continuous training in app and via physical training at the offices to ensure all the drivers at any given time, they know the do's and don'ts. And number two, they also learn and they are trained on the things like how to behave, how to deal with the customer, stuff like that. But in case of such thing happening, right, we have what we call offline trips or cancellation penalties.
Yeah.
So if a driver today accepts a trip then it confirms with you whether you can top up, and you say no, then cancel that order. There is a penalty around it. So part of the part of the penalty would be suspension, where the driver is suspended not to operate on Bolt for quite some time. Or it could even be if, for example, there was any fraud case, will you have to refund, then being suspended. So we deal with that and we monitor. So we have all the tools, both human checks and AI, where we check, okay, Dimmy received X number of orders, how many of them were he able to complete? So if you hit a certain threshold, a certain penalty or whatever happens,
Yeah, but on the authenticity of these cancellations, because the options that one can get is whether the driver asked me to cancel, or so there are many options, and one can even lie that, you know what, maybe it's the passenger, it's the rider who wanted to cancel. So how do you know that this is a genuine reason for cancellation? Because it can be done by either party. It can be done by the rider, but also by the driver.
Yeah, so we normally check, So like we don't really, so we have what we call driver score. So driver score really checks you are out of 100 trips, how many of them you have the best score. So one cancellation does not necessarily mean you will be penalized. But if it happens that we have X number of cancellations in X number of trips, there is no way you can say it's just riders, Then we have what we call offline trips. So there is what we have put as detectors. So for example, you are at the airport, let's say use Dar es Salaam, for example.
Yeah.
You're at the airport, then you got into a Bolt, or you posted a Bolt, you go to a driver, and you are going maybe to Goba. Then for some reason, a driver cancelled and said a passenger cancelled.
Yeah.
But 40 minutes later, he goes online in Goba. What does that mean? So it means this guy, actually the rider didn't cancel.
Yeah.
But the trip was handled offline, which is now risky even for us and for the riders.
True.
So this driver will be penalized. So we normally have these detectors to know whether a rider or a passenger put a comment or not. Our tool will be able to detect whether there was some mishandling.
Okay. Now let's talk about safety, and especially this. Of course, it affects all genders, but women, when it comes to ride-hailing services, safety is often a concern. What assurances are there? Because I understand you have rolled out some safety measures within the system, but can you talk a bit about the safety measures that are currently and the effectiveness of those measures?
Okay, thanks so much. So we have around 4 or 5 safety advancements that we have rolled out in the last couple of months. So one of them we call it SOS button. So at any given time when you're on a ride, there's a button where at a click of a button, someone will be able to call you to know whether you're safe or not. So whether you are a rider or you are a driver. So that ensures that at every given time, there are some tools and people behind that trip who are monitoring the trip to ensure you're safe. Number 2, we have what we call trip anomaly. So in case you're moving from point A to point B, and the trip was meant to take only 30 minutes, but for some reason you have stopped somewhere for quite some minutes. So number 1, you receive a notification about to understand whether you're okay or not. If you don't respond, you receive a call to just confirm. Also, they will call the driver to confirm whether the trip is what's happening. Then we have what we call trip share. So trip share. So today, let's say you have taken a trip, you can share your trip with your loved ones, your friends, whatever. So even if your phone was about to die, I can share the trip with the KP, so KP can be able to monitor the trip even when my phone is off. So at any given time, can know, okay, Dimmy is around this area, and you can even get the details for the drivers in case. So then we have our safety team. So as much as the Bolt company is big, so around 12% of our workforce is the safety. So you can imagine how much we invest in the safety.
Okay. Every conversation in Tanzania or even globally cannot be had without mentioning SMEs and also youth. Bolt employs or provides employment to self-employment to a majority of Tanzanians, anyone who wants to have a side gig, I would say, and even to some it's a main gig because they can make an average of about 3 million a month. How are you supporting SMEs, but also ensuring that the youth, the rising population of youth, is able to benefit from the Bolt operations?
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, so in supporting number 1 is to ensure that we have the fair chance for everyone. So today, for example, if you come to our portal as drivers, right? So we are still operating in a situation where majority of the drivers are male, of course. But today we are even having a platform where we help female drivers to be able to be on board. So we have worked and partnered with some agencies who are even providing loan for cars or bajaji for female drivers. So today, for example, if there is any female driver who has been driving but doesn't own a vehicle, what's Bolt, they can always come to our office, then we'll get the right audience, right? Then in terms of all youths, right? As long as you're aged 18, you have a driving license, whether you have a car or you don't have a car, if you come to the office and say, I'm a driver, I'm experienced, but I don't have a car, we normally run what we call vehicle marketplace, where we connect you with somebody who has a vehicle but doesn't have a driver. Some people can have maybe 3 vehicles, but for some reason, 2 vehicles are vacant. So that's what we do. But on top of that, we also work with the regulators and the other agents to ensure at least, number one, we are able to provide what we call financing. So work with banks and financiers to ensure at least they can provide the vehicle financing at the best, proper and best interests. But number 2, we're also working with the government, even all regulators, to try to help them to be able to get online without the necessarily need of a lot of documentation, which we know most youths don't have.
Okay. So Milu, let's talk about now the future of Bolt business in Tanzania, in South Africa, in Ghana. Where do you see the biggest opportunities for growth in these 3 markets?
As I said, businesses in Tanzania have really decided to come to embrace Bolt business, which is a good thing. And now, if you ask me today, where do I see Bolt business in the next, let's say, 1 or 2 years? Trust me, probably we'll be doing like 1,000x. Of course, currently, as Dim said, that doesn't just apply for ride. Even for Bolt business, we are growing like year over year. It's a minimum, it's around 95. So it's usually like around 100 or above year over year. So let's say last year you did €1 million in revenue in August. So probably it means this year you did 2 million or even more than 2 million in revenue. So I'm seeing a country where businesses will embrace technologies, and I'm really excited for the opportunity in Tanzania. Now we're going to help enterprises as well as the government, but looking to other markets like South Africa and Ghana, those are the market that with the total addressable market is quite large. For South Africa, it's actually, when you look to the total addressable market for business mobility, we are talking around an industry that is more than $5 billion business. Because on our industry, on the business mobility, our biggest competitor are rentals. And those rentals are actually quite large. They are giant and all that. So it's quite a large industry that we are looking forward to on top. And right now, we are actually doing something that's going to be amazing for our South African business and Ghana to make sure that we meet whatever need that they have. And the way we have actually built our solution right now, as I told you at the beginning, we're a global company, but we try to go with a local mindset as well. So everything that we have as global, we build it and we customize to meet the local needs. So I'm really excited for the future of Bolt business in South Africa as well. Actually, fun fact, I took South Africa 2 weeks ago. I've been with Ghana for almost a year right now, and we've grown our business more than 2x since I took the business. So I'm really excited to see how we're going to make the life of business quite easier and to make sure that they do what they're experts at better, because we want to remove that burden of everything that is business mobility, and we want people to focus in their area of expertise so that they can grow their business and make profit and serve the community, because once the business grow, it means they pay more tax,
yes,
and everyone will be happy at the end
absolutely.
of the day.
And Dimmy, what does growth look like in your area of operation?
Oh, thanks. So for me, it looks at the different angles, right? So I start from driver's side or supply side. So for me today, for example, roughly I have around my top 50 drivers are earning up to 3.5 million per month, right? So growth for me is if I can have top 100 drivers or top 1,000 drivers earning that amount, right? Or if I can have top 50 earning over 5 million, right? So for me, that's an opportunity for the drivers. Number 2, expansion. I still want to expand. I understand we're in 9 cities today, but in Tanzania, how many cities or towns we have? We have a lot, right? So my wish is to be in a position where maybe in a year or 2, at least 70% of the Tanzanian townships have Bolt access. So today, if you're in Dar es Salaam and move to Kahama, you move to Kagera, you move to wherever, you can always use Bolt wherever you are, knowing that at least you'll get a ride much affordable, convenient, and everyone you'll get wherever you want to go safely, right? But number two is also the adoption.
Yeah.
So today, for example, I understand roughly the population is around 65 million Tanzanians, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think is the number of people who are using the hailing monthly basis? It's around 1 million.
Yeah.
So it's the actual 1 million Tanzanians using the hailing, but that million uses it so often. So there are some Dimmy who use Bolt at least 7 times a week. There are some guys who use Bolt even over 30 times a month, because for them they use Bolt morning and evening, right? There are some guys who use Bolt maybe once they get paid. So now what I want us to move now is to see whether if now we can expand into the addressable base from 1 million to 3 million Tanzanians using Bolt already hailing every month, right? Then number two, for those guys who are using Bolt once or twice a month, if they can use it quite often, because they move, right? So I use Bolt once a day or whatever, right? Okay. So that's growth on the whatever. Then now I have some aspiration on the offering, right? Last year we launched Bolt Send. We want to continue launching more categories that are really suitable for the community, depending on whether we have. So today, for example, if I launch in Uganda and realize those guys still use bikes, we'll bring bikes. We're about innovation, but as Milu said, we look at the local context as well, right? Then today we are looking at the Milu signing a lot of top-notch business, right? These guys will require some sort of specialized transports, specialized cars or whatever. So we are looking to expanding into the more comfort and premium categories as well, where you can travel free, safely, nicely, with a very good car, full AC, internet, you can work from your car and whatever, right? So that's what growth means for us as well.
Okay, absolutely. So just so that the audiences may get to get, you talked about the monthly average earning that a Bolt driver makes. You said 3.5 million.
Yes, for my top drivers. Yeah.
Wow, that is quite amazing, because there are not many businesses or even employment opportunities here in Tanzania when one can earn 3.5 million. So this is an opportunity for drivers right out there. And what is your message to them to tap into that opportunity?
Yeah, so for me, like if you are smart, you have a vehicle, you can get a vehicle, get on board. And as ensure you are very well trained, you know the do's and don'ts, and stay sharp.
Okay.
You make 3.5 million. That's what I can assure you.
Oh, well, excited. Gentlemen, that marks the end of this interview. It has been nice having a conversation, just getting to understand the mobility industry in Tanzania, in East Africa, also South Africa and Ghana. All the best to the scaling of Bolt business. You were with me, Mpoki Thompson, here in Dar es Salaam. I'm at Bolt offices. I was with the senior general manager, Dimmy Kanyankole. He handles the Tanzanian, Kenyan, and Ugandan market. But I'm also with Milu, who is the senior country manager for Bolt business for Tanzania, South Africa, and Ghana. That's a wrap for today's episode. Until next time, adios.